Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome. How is preparation for Ramadan at your hand? And sisters, have you paid your missed fast? By now you should have. And if you haven't, start doing so now. May Allah make it easy. And those of you that are watching my videos and have not subscribed, I am seeing you. Sister Fatima, Ajia Balikisu, Sister Moriamo, Auntie Maimuna. You people should subscribe now and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified when there is a new video. If I did not call your name, it's in my register. I'll call it in the next video. I am back with another story, another real life personal experience, and that is one of the reasons for this channel, right? To discuss some of the challenges that Muslims, particularly Muslim women, encounter in the day-to-day life, especially in the West, and of course how to respond to these challenges and be victorious bi-iznillah when they come. Allah has never promised any Muslim a perfect life. This is Islam. You enter Islam wholeheartedly with the mindset that life will never be perfect. I will be tested by Allah. Shit will happen. But still, I will pull through. I will be firm bi-iznillah, and I will hold on to this treasure no matter what. This is not some other religion that when you visit their religious places for the first time, they will promise you heaven and earth. They will promise you the perfect life, the perfect marriage, the perfect children. There is no deceit in Islam. In fact, in Islam lies the truth and the reality of things. Just as Allah says in the glorious Quran that He will test the believers with loss of wealth, hunger, fear, etc., etc. This dunya is Jannah for the disbelievers and not a place of so much comfort for the Muslims. May Allah not test us with more than this our tiny body can bear. I refuse to digress. Let's go to the main gist. The mindset for me was to come here, school, as in build a career, and of course make them pounds. But reality hits me, bam. When I came, and getting a job seems to be like it will never happen. When I was in Nigeria, the way we used to imagine it is that jobs are available on a platter of gold. And once you just land in the airport, you just open your hand like this, and someone will be sharing the jobs. On a more serious note, the expectation was to come here, resume classes, start working. I had everything planned in my head. But I had some reservations and fear and some unanswered questions as to the employability of women wearing jilbabs, hijabs, and niqab. I didn't get a direct answer or someone to tell me and, give me personal experience, just as I am doing now, as to Muslims doing job hunts and, in the workforce. I was only getting a third-party testimony. Someone said, I had that, I think. And so the only thing I resorted into doing after, searching Google, Facebook, any social media was to keep praying and, telling Allah to bless me with good jobs that would not affect my Islam, or a job that I would be accepted as a Muslimah wearing hijab. The first anxiety and fear I had was when I was preparing to travel down and, I was packing stuff. And so I called a family member who was already living here in the UK, to ask what was necessary to bring along. And then she advised that I shouldn't come with any clothes as clothes are cheap and very affordable here. And so I told her, no, I am not planning to come with clothes, so except for my hijabs, jellibabs and the likes. And she said, jellibab bouquet. Keep your jellibaba in Nigeria. Oh. You can't wear that here, except for when you are going to the mosque. And I was like, are you kidding me? And she said, you will see now. When you come, you will see for yourself. I said, oh. In my mind, I was like, Kojo, it is impossible. They would rather send me back than have me remove my hijab or limit me to cap or pash. I will rather be better in my faith and appearance as a Muslim woman than have my identity as a Muslim woman snatched. For what? All this pangolo. Pangolo in my local dialect means something with little to no value, like trash. Don't get me wrong. It is good to pursue success and of course make a lot of good money. But when you lose your Islam in the way, then it becomes a problem. After all, it is either we leave all of this wealth behind and retire to the grave, or the wealth leaves us. So what? In a nutshell, I packed my jelly baba and I landed in the UK. So what I have noticed is that aside for employers, there is usually some kind of pressure from family members. We have seen cases in Nigeria where a parent burns the jelibab of their kids like, ìyá mi ò múra bí eégún rí, èmi náà ò wáṣọ eégún rí, ọmọ mi kankan náà lè múra bí eégún. So what I am driving at is that before I entered the car to be going to the airport, my beloved father, may Allah increase him in goodness and in Iman, started advising me like, Saida, all those your clothes that used to sweep the floor, hey, it is not what you will be wearing there. Oh, he was advising that I should try to, reduce and adjust my hijab. And I'm like, of all the advice in the world. Some of our parents used to have the notion that hijab can limit someone in life. And I think it's from the mindset of, we sent you to school, we want you to pursue a career, and this hijab will probably be an hindrance, so take it off or adjust. But that is far from the truth. Allah has portioned the wealth and livelihood of every man, and you will not leave this world until you have exhausted all that Allah apportioned for you. Fast forward to when I got to the UK, I started applying for jobs, but the jobs were not forthcoming. I was mostly applying online. In fact, Indeed almost got tired of me. If you're in UK, you should know what Indeed is. Indeed is a job search app. In my mind, I knew there was no reason to panic or rush because I was applying, so I knew that I will eventually get lucky. But the issue started with people who are family members who started getting worried when it was too early to be worried. Some family members here in the UK kept calling me, asking me why I haven't secured a job after spending close to 4 weeks in the UK. Imagine 4 weeks. So on getting to the UK, just after 2 weeks, my husband secured a job, and he told me that in his workplace, there is this religious room that Muslims mostly use to pray, to observe Salah, and he and some other brothers used to observe their Salah in congregation. And I'm like, wow. And then they all concluded that the problem was my hijab, that my hijab is the hindrance to my not getting a job. In fact, someone called me on phone and asked if I was not planning to work at all. And I was like, why won't I work if there is job? And she said, then I should try to adjust my dressing because employers would most likely not tell me that they are rejecting me because of my hijab, because they know I can sue them based on the equality and diversity rights stuff, and that they will always look for excuses to say no. She was trying to buttress that people are more likely to favor someone who is like them and not someone who is completely different from them. And it is the same thing with employability in the UK. I remember that she will always say, look at how others are dressed and try to adjust. Another family member of mine who is also in the UK advised that I should be doing the jeans and cap level for a period of maybe 5 years, spending the time that I get my permanent stay, and then I can claim the right of inclusiveness from any employer that is trying to discriminate me, later on. That's after 5 years. A lot of unsolicited advice. Personally, I am someone who always reflects on advice, in my quiet time. And if I find the advice to be better than my stand, I am very likely to take the advice. But when it comes to the matters of the day, I'm stubborn. I don't have a little consideration for shaitanic advice. It is either you advise me on how to become a better Muslimah and not the other way around. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just about 5 years now just to get what you want, and then you can do what you want after then. But the question is, who is certain of the next 5 years in this dunya? Except that we are prayerful and hopeful. I was so determined to prove them wrong, so I began to put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that I get a job like very urgently, very fast, despite wearing hijab. Little did I know that I did not even need to put any further pressure on myself, as not all of these white people are racist and Islamophobes. So the family members that we stayed with when we newly arrived are like parents to us. They are Muslims, but they have this unresolved, resentment about hijabs and the possibility of getting a job with it. So at a point, they became really worried for me, and they started telling me that it should be as a result of the hijab that I am wearing. Not like forgetting that there are a lot of people who are not even wearing the hijab in the UK and outside the UK who are also not employed. On this particular day, this my beloved second father could not hold it again. He came to me and he said, Saida, when you are in Rome, you behave like a Roman. In this place, you dress corporately, you wear your jeans, and if you must cover your head, it's this mindset that you only cover your hair in Islam. Just use a cap. You don't need to be extreme. I told him, I am sorry, Daddy, but that is not where I will be comfortable dressed like that. A few days after that discussion, a company that I had applied to called me on phone, and we spoke quite lengthily. They said they were pleased with my CV, and they did a kind of a short interview. So they invited me for another interview, and they told me to come with all of my credentials that, we are short of staff and we can't wait for you to start immediately. Please make sure you come on so dates. In my mind, I was like, it's a rich. So one day, this my second father had me and my husband discussing about the interview, the major interview, which will take place the next day. And so he said, are you determined and serious about getting that job? I said, Ben, sir. And I was like, then take note of how you dress to the interview. I mean, this is not Saudi Arabia where all the women will cover their face from head to toe, and the government makes provision for them in Saudi Arabia. So this is UK where you have to make provisions for yourself. Even God understands. And in my mind, I am like, how am I going to explain that Islam is not just a Saudi religion, but Allah's injunction, and Allah is the one that takes care of all of us, Saudi or not? The next morning, when I was going for the interview, my husband had to sneak me out of the house. It was that serious, because I did not want Daddy to see what I was wearing for the interview. I don't want wahala, because if Allah destined that I was not going to get the job, they will just conclude that it is because of hijab. So I was trying to avoid all of that. And then I left the house. Subhanallah. I suffered before I got to the venue. I was new in the UK, and I was still struggling to understand the transport system, the map, the buses. It was a lot. And unfortunately, I entered the wrong bus. And before I realized it, the bus took me very far. And then I had to come out of the bus, and I was just so confused as to where I was. And then I called my husband that, your wife don't lost you. And so we spent close to 30 minutes on the phone, because he was trying to understand where I was, so as to help me with navigation with the map and to be able to get another bus. But unfortunately, in that area, when you miss a bus, that is all, because the next bus will have to come in the next 1 hour. Be patient, so this detail will lead to the major story. And so I was very cold and, confused. So I had to call the company and I explained my ordeal. And they were so sweet, so understanding. They told me not to worry, that I should just make sure that I eventually make it to the venue. And I was like, oh yeah, let's get this Benz, do your job. I trekked there. Even my legs did not forgive me for 3 days. At a point, I got to an overhead bridge. I was terribly scared because I don't like heights. So it was like a snake bridge. I was like, how did I manage to get here? Where is this map thing taking me to? I made a short video of it so as to show my husband when I get home. Eventually, after going through thick and thin, I got to the venue. I was so cold and exhausted. But alhamdulillah, Mushati Debe. And then I pressed the bell. Just immediately, someone came out to me and she looked at me like she was confused. And the next thing she said was, have you been vaccinated? I'm sorry, you have to present your card before you come in here. And I was like, I came prepared. This is my card. When I say something else. She told me to go behind the building, that there is a door behind the building, and that she will come and open the door for me. And I was like, okay. So I went behind the building and I was waiting. And seriously, I was not expecting to stand there for even up to 30 seconds before, she comes to open the door. But in another 20 minutes, I was still standing, waiting, despite being cold and exhausted. So at the point, I got confused. I went to the door. I was knocking. Nobody was answering me. Then I had to go back to the front door. I pressed the bell like twice and nobody came out. I was very tired and, I was getting pissed. Then I called the person that I was speaking to, the one that told me, no, just make sure you come to the venue. I called her, and when she eventually picked, she was like, I'm so sorry, we would come to you soon. And I waited for another maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So when I got tired of waiting, I picked my phone, and I called my husband. And the first thing my husband told me when I explained the situation to him was that, despite all your suffer, he was shocked. And he said, just start coming home. What sort of a thing is that? So at the point, I was, giving them excuses. So I was like, perhaps maybe they are interviewing other, prospective staff. And believe me, that was not the case at all. So after a long wait, the HR, I presume, eventually opened the door. And believe me, she was not apologetic at all. And so she took me to the interview room and then she said, take this application form and fill. I'm busy. Then she left. And I was like, Auntie, I thought I came for interview. So I filled the form, I believe that is the process. So I filled the form and she collected the application form. And then she said she remembered that I told her that I'll be working 20 hours since I am a student. And I said yes. And then she said, okay, that she's going to check to see if there will be a 20-hour shift that they can fix me in. And I was shocked because when we talk, like before the interview date, I already told her that I was a student and she said that I was going to get my shift because they have staff shortage and so they need staff ASAP. She said she was going to get back to me, but till today that I know of, I haven't had anything from them. A few days later, my university organized a job fair and I went for the job fair. So the job fair is just a way of the university, trying to make the students employable, kind of. They invite companies within all to a particular venue in the school, and each of the company have a stand, where they attend to students. So students are allowed to, go to each stand and talk to the company's representative. And so it's just like an avenue for you to get a job, fill the application forms and, just an easy way to be called for an interview. I explored all the companies that came. I engaged them in discussion, just to see if a particular company would tell me, don't bother applying. We don't need people dressed like this. But seriously, They were all very welcoming and promising. There was this particular company that I was very much interested in, and so we had a very good dialogue. So they gave me the application form. I went home, took my time, and filled it meticulously. So the next day, I took the application form to the company, so as to submit it now and be hopeful. And then in the front of the company, there is this glass, like a transparent door. It's like glass or something, and you can easily see the person inside, and the person inside can see me too. So I think the person that I was seeing is the receptionist. So as soon as I was seeing her from the door, I noticed that she was looking at me and she was doing like this. And I was like, what is wrong with this auntie's neck? What is wrong with this lady's neck? Why is she shaking her head? And she kept on doing. So I knew that she was trying to communicate something, that perhaps, no, are you sure we can take someone maybe dressed like this? I don't know, but I was reading a lot of meaning to it. But she kept on doing. I was like, if your head should fall from your neck, I'll still submit this application form, because I took my time to fill it and I took my time to come here. I will try. So I walked in and I dropped the application form, and she was like, okay, we'll get back to you. So I left. Till tomorrow, I did not hear anything too. It was not a very good experience, seriously, considering the fact that I was also just getting over the physical bully that I experienced from a lady that was, saying, go back to your country when I newly came into the town. I made a video about that. You might want to watch it. I tried to not let all of this get to me, but at a point, even my parents became worried. They will call me and ask how far now, friends will call, and the family is here too. They were calling me, and So one point that I would also like to make is that many a times people that advise Muslims, to reduce their hijab or take off their hijab completely, so as to, get jobs and get these worldly possessions and the likes, do not do so from the point of hate. Many of them are usually genuinely worried. So these family members here and there that are telling me, reduce your hijab, it is your hijab. Oh. Seriously, when we count our blessings, we would count these people. Because before, during, and after our relocation, they supported us with everything, like physically, financially, everything. And then out of love and, wanting the best for me, they feel to give me their own sincere advice, which is to take away, that obstacle that they assume is the hindrance to my, getting a job or to any success that they feel that awaits me. It is just their level of understanding. So sisters, when we find ourselves in a situation where family, friends, colleagues are not pleased with us wearing hijab for one reason or the other, I think we should be patient, and we should thank Allah for blessing us with what they don't have. And that is the ability to think and reason like movements. Count yourself lucky, because if Allah wills, you would have been the one thinking like them. It is like Allah placing you above them in terms of iman, and so you need a lot of patience to be able to help them nurture their iman. Just like you have to be patient, to nurture children into becoming upright adults. Perhaps our patience, perseverance, and seeing us succeed despite all odds can change their perspective of things. In my next video, Bi-Iznillah, I will be telling you how I eventually got my job. Not just one job, but 2 at a time. So make sure you stick around and don't forget to subscribe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.